So now is the point of the show where we're going to talk about Star Wars Celebration 23.
Yeah, let's go.
So, the first thing, and this is to me the most exciting piece outside of the Ahsoka trailer that we'll talk about at the end. At the end, these are not the endings you're looking for. Um, Visions Season 2 drops May fucking 4th. May 4th. Like we didn't even know this was coming. No, I had no idea Visions 2 was coming that quickly. And maybe it's because of the extended universe thing, JJ, or whatever it
Yeah,
is, because we have all these different studios doing their own episode that they can
yeah,
do this. But it's amazing. We're getting 9 new episodes May 4th. So when Mando has 3 episodes left this week?
yeah.
Yeah. This is going to start the week after Mando ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited, and what's even more exciting to me is that Disney slash Lucasfilm has reached out internationally to a bunch of different studios in different countries this year, not necessarily only in Japan. So it's just really interesting. I actually got to watch the panel as they were interviewing the various animation studios that did this, and just kind of hear their creative process and their inspiration for how they created each one of these episodes. And man, there are a few on here that I'm so excited to watch and see how they draw out the stories according from their perspective, from their point of view.
Yeah. So happy, super, super happy at that.
Heck yeah.
All right. The next big announcement was Bad Batch Season 3. We're getting Palpatine back. Actual Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid is confirmed, officially confirmed for Season 3.
Oh my, yeah, it's super exciting. I cannot wait to follow up this. I've actually about 2 episodes left here for Bad Batch. It's been getting so good, and I am so excited to see what they do for season 3. And actually, just watching the panel, seeing the various voice actors come on for Bad Batch, man, like it was just awesome to see how they do all the voices and the process for how they create all the different like designs and everything in the series. It just gets me so hyped to see Bad Batch season 3. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So obviously they got Omega, and I don't care. It sucks to be you, JJ. We're gonna ruin it. You know, Omega gets kidnapped. It's official. If you watched anything, you should know this
Yeah,
by now. And
yeah,
so it sucks to be you. Um, and the best part is we see her and Crosshair together. Like
yeah.
so, even though we lost Tech, spoiler alert. I whatever. Again, it's already been out. If you watch Celebration, they talked all about it. They had a whole panel where she talked about how sad it was. Um.
Yeah.
Uh. So I don't know. I think this is huge. Huge. There's going to be a huge monster. The trailer is not officially out, but there was a trailer you could see if you got it really quickly. When they released it, and they're looking at an early 2024 roughly release date for that.
Yep, excited for that. And then the next announcement that they have on here is season 2 of Tales of the Jedi. Now, they just teased the second season for it. We still don't have any info or any release dates for it, but they will continue that episodic type style of first season. Of course, first season focused mainly on Count Dooku and Ahsoka. Here's hoping to them following even more. Like I would love to see other characters involved in it, maybe following like Cassian Andor. That would be kind of cool to see, like some of his background for Tales of the Jedi, something like that, or even like following sequel trilogy stuff. Follow maybe introducing Finn as a new Jedi, or maybe following more stuff for Rey as well. Would be kind of cool to see that path.
Um, yeah, and so I we don't know anything other than there's a season 2 of it. That's all we know. We do know that they follow Count Dooku and Ahsoka. So obviously the reason behind that piece of it was impromptu for the Ahsoka show. So there's a reason they did that. So depending on when they release it, I think Andor might come out before this. I don't know though.
Most likely, yeah. Or at least at the same time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it might help out or it might not. They also have something called Young Jedi, which is a kid show coming out May 4th. I'll be frank and say I will not watch it. I do not care. We will not cover it on the show. It is not going to be something Tanner has any interest in.
We need a 2-hour special dedicated to this one.
Yep, sure. You stream it with all the fancy intros and everything, and you edit the show, and you can happily cover all of the Young Jedi Adventures stuff.
Yeah, for those who actually may consider watching it, this one is set during the era of the High Republic. This is the first show that would actually be featured for that time, just showing these kiddie adventures for these Jedi in training. And they're the biggest star on that trailer that they show is Nubs, who appears to be a blue Ewok, apparently. But yeah, definitely a kiddie show that's coming out there.
It's Bubble Guppies in Star Wars.
It's Bubble Guppies in Star Wars,
and that's fine. Your daughter is what, 4 or 5?
She's 6. She's 6, but yes, she still likes it. She still likes it.
She's a little old for it.
Hey, anything that gets into Star Wars and eventually play X-Wing on the table, we'll do it, bro.
Well, that's never gonna happen. She might get into Star Wars, but you're probably out of luck on the playing the X-Wing there. So I will say, what's the show with Bob Goblin in it? God damn it! I know your kid watches this show. She has to. It's like super popular. It's got Bob Goblin. Like, I'm Bob Goblin. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Yeah. You figure it out. I don't know. I don't have young kids anymore, so and by the time my grandkids are old enough, I'm not gonna give them this type of stuff. Like shit, I was letting my son when this came. So your daughter is 6. My son was 3 or 4 when he started watching Batman the Animated Series. We didn't watch this type of stuff. We watched Batman the Animated Series, the original animated X-Wing or X-Men series, nice. The original Spider-Man series. We didn't watch this stuff.
I'm actually going through Spider-Man right now. I don't have the Batman series, but that's definitely one I want to watch again with her.
Well, it's on HBO. If you need help watching HBO, you should message me and I can help you out. Just you, no one else.
Yeah, no worries.
The next one, and this is where I kind of usually I'm a little weirded out by comics because I don't buy comics like I used to because I don't have the room for them. But my stepson told me if I let him move home, he will let me have his Marvel subscription so I can start reading these. Which means I probably need to get an iPad or something, I guess, because I don't have an iPad anymore or anything to read comics on. And I don't read books. I listen to them on audio. I don't actually physically read anything outside of news stuff. I listen to everything. I don't know. I'm weird like that, I guess. But this one was interesting to me because it's the Dark Droids. So to me, this is like 000 BT1 type crap. They announced a whole series on Dark Droids. It's a horror field epic. That's what it's called. That's all right.
All right, yeah.
I will probably read these. I'll probably read them. I guess I think I have to. I don't know.
I mean, I eventually they give out those free subscriptions every once in a while, so I think I'll actually probably end up reading it there. But hey, if it ends up giving us new possible crew for ships in Star Wars, yeah, why not? I'm all for it.
Now the next thing, which I found actually very exciting, is they're going to put Return of the Jedi in the theaters. And I missed Empire Strikes Back because of COVID.
Oh, man.
We did not go because of COVID because we were being very, very safe at that point. With COVID gone, this is a dream. To me, this is... I don't know. When I grew up, they re-released all these when I was in middle school. And I got to see them all in the theater. And my father was never like huge Star Wars fan. Like he liked Star Trek and Star Wars, but he was just like like these are like
Casual.
my
Casual.
father liked sci-fi movies. In fairness, like that was his favorite genre of movies, was sci-fi movies. So we watched them. I mean, I grew up watching Star Wars at a very young age, but when they came into the theater, it was like a must-have to go see. And those tickets sold so fast. Like I made my mother take me down to get them because I wanted to go that bad. And my father hates movie theaters because they were too loud for him. So this is super exciting. I have not gotten tickets yet. I have to look at that when I get paid this Friday. I get paid this Friday, thank God. And I will be getting them for whoever in my family wants to go. Because being able to see this on the big screen again, just, I don't know. It's like a dream come true. And like, I will tell you, if Celebration actually ran like a weekend, like 1 month a year, they just ran each of the 3 movies every year, I would go every year and see them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of it's nostalgia for me, and some of it's just because I think those movies are actually that good. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I would and so they have an IMAX theater where I'm at, where I actually went to go see the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I'm going to tangent a little bit. It was a fun movie, great time. I brought my kids and my nephews and niece with us. Just had a blast. But anyway,
hold on. We were asked how many ladders we have. I actually own 3 ladders. One really shitty ladder that I got from my father that falls apart. I own like one really tall, I don't know, it's like 2 stories worth ladder. And then like another like medium short one that I use in case the house starts on fire.
I have an obligatory ladder that was given to me by my job, so I've never actually paid for it. But and it's collecting rust in one of my cars right now.
Well, you should probably get that out. Ladders are very valid things, JJ. Anyway.
Yeah, but what am I going to do? Climb onto nothing?
Don't you have a house? Don't you use a ladder? You got to clean your gutters, don't you?
No, man.
You guys don't have gutters in North Carolina?
Not all the house. I'm technically in a townhome right now, so I mean, unless I get out a 40-foot ladder, which hell no, I not doing it.
So can I tell I'm going to tell a tangent story here. When I was younger, we had my parents bought an old farmhouse, right? And we had this old ass like 1980s, 1970s like metal ladder, like the one where they had the little clips. Why are we talking about ladders?
Nickel City achieved the derailment. There we go.
But we had this ladder and it has those little hooks, and you would like, so it would be like one tall ladder, and then you would like lift it up and it would hook, and then you would lift it up again and it would hook. And we used to have storm windows and screens. And when I was younger, and my father, I'm a big person. My father was a big person. My father used to carry 2 storm windows up in his armpits and then climbed the ladder all the way up to like the 2nd story of our house. And then my job as the young male, as the oldest child, was to stand there as my father held one in his armpit and took the other one and lifted it up to me so that I could grab the fucking storm window and pull it in and hopefully not drop it on him or on the ladder while the whole, I mean, this is an old ass, like, again, early 80s ladder that like, creaks and moves. And so I'm holding this like 45, 50 pound window as like an 8-year-old, hoping my father doesn't drop it and die. And then I have to hold it and get it in there. And then he takes the ladder, and I'm dead serious, and he does the hopping motion like this. And he hops to the next window over and sticks the other one in there for my sister or myself to grab onto the other one. And then he latches it. And then he hops back and latches the other one.
As a person who sees people fall from the roofs on ladders, that is a horrifying story, bro. Golly. Oh my gosh. Heck no. Well, anyway, back to Return of the Jedi.
Ugh.
I'm sure that the second I come back from seeing that movie in IMAX, I'm going to want to play the Return of the Jedi pack that's going to come out. I'm just gonna have to play it. Just gonna have to, man. Yeah.
Well, think about it this way: like with that Return of the Jedi, I didn't know it was coming in IMAX. I guess I did not see that, so I guess I'm gonna have to do that. But but that Return of the Jedi game. Remember the Return of the Jedi Super Nintendo game?
Yes.
I have that
Mhm.
game.
Nice.
It sucks. I will play it though.
Yeah, sure. All right, and then the other piece of information that we got here from Celebrations was the second trailer, the final trailer for Jedi Survivor. Man, that looks so good! I cannot wait to play that game. It's going to be absolutely great. We're going to get a Rancor battle on there, and they did mention companion play, right?
Yes, a Rancor battle, companion play, and the final trailer that has not just one, not two, but three companion scenes inside of it.
Oh man,
And the bet I don't know if you watch. Okay, I don't know if you watch this. All right, so another little weird tangent, but remember I don't know the guy's name. I have no idea who the hell that guy is. But there's a guy that that was doing the interviews that you complained about when he interviewed Anthony Daniels
yeah,
and whatever that guy. What's that guy's name?
X or Eckerts.
Okay,
Yeah.
I believe he did the interview with the actor from Fallen
Yes, Jedi
Jedi.
Fallen Order. Yeah.
And that guy trolled him. And I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he trolled him about a poncho. Like to the point where the guy goes, "Seriously, can you stop?" Like he's like on air. He just was like getting all pissed off. Because every like they told the actor they were not going to talk about the poncho. And that guy literally would not shut up about a poncho. And he was wearing a poncho. It was hilarious. Like I thought that was like to me that was the best thing ever. And it just kind of felt like payback for giving C3PO all that shit, you know? Like why are you doing this? You know, who thought that was a good idea?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I am very excited. I actually just finished the Resident Evil 4 remake. And I'm on my second playthrough for it. So when this comes out, I'll be through my second playthrough and ready to tackle some Jedis.
Maybe we get some crossplay going, and maybe stream something. I'm just saying.
We could if we could figure out how to do the audio so that you can join in the audio. If they let us do companions together, oh fuck yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
All right. The next two, before we get into Andor and Ahsoka, which we will get to, the next two is the Acolytes and Skeleton Crew. Here's something I didn't know. Right now, the Acolytes is coming in 2024. Not till the end of the year, though. They have 4 episodes recorded officially. They said that this show is going to be in the villain perspective, per se. And there's going to be a Wookiee Jedi.
Okay, so automatically, Barra Sophie is the Acolyte, and the Wookiee Jedi is the one from Bad Batch.
Possibly. But also, I thought this was coming from the end of the end of the High Republic.
Oh, okay, that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do not know 100% if this is, and again, I could be wrong, but the understanding I got was not. Stop with the. Is not that it's going to be the Wookiee Jedi that we know and love. There is a Wookiee Jedi, by the way, in High Republic.
In High Republic, yeah, that's right. I forgot his name, but yeah, you're right. There is one in there.
Yes. So, I became a little bit more excited for the Acolyte than I was before. Just because if they're going to put this from a villain perspective, that's something we have not had in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like this is encouraging me to finally go into my my High Republic books and actually start going through them. I'm still at the end of my last book with Thrawn. It's been fantastic, by the way, and High Republic is probably the next thing. Although I do want to go through Alphabet Squadron as well, but I think High Republic is calling me.
Yeah, and I'm on the last two books that were released at the beginning of the year for High Republic.
Yeah,
So I have 2 hours left on the one, and then the full other book of the second one.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I read the Alphabet Squadron. I don't know, that was a while ago when they first came out, I think.
Yeah.
They were pretty good. Maybe I'll go back and read them. I don't know. I don't like them. I like the Aftermath trilogy more than I thought I would, and I actually intended to go back and reread Aftermath again. Um, but I don't know. I might have to reread Thrawn so I can get angry about it. But we'll get back. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Skeleton
All right.
Crew was the next one that they talked about. They essentially explained that the show is about kids that are getting lost. Jude Law showed up for an interview, and he's the mentor to these kids, and he's at minimum force sensitive.
Ooh, okay.
The highlight that I heard about was Thane the pirate. The Thane
Like
from
Thane
The
Tyrell.
Mandalorian.
Oh, all right, okay. I so he was the lieutenant for Gorian Shard, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
he is in this. I could not find anybody at all that had the leaked trailer
Yeah, I
from
was actively looking
Celebration.
for it. Yeah.
I
Wow,
had
that's so it's live action then, right?
yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh yes. And when I'm not a big Jude Law fan personally, like I could take him or leave him. But a force sensitive mentor and then the pirates coming back. All right, I'm in for some. I'm in for this.
See some Corsair action, right?
Yes.
Nice.
The next one is the Andor panel. They did have an Andor screening. I did get to see it broken up into weird little bits. It is nothing but a bunch of like pictures, basically. It was nothing really fancy. Um, but essentially it will release next year during the summer or August. They did not officially say which. There is a micro trailer out there that will eventually get released. I guess the end of it ends with Andy basically chanting "One Way Out." So they didn't have a lot of information on it. It was a very short portion of that panel. They did do some interviews throughout the 3 days or 4 days where they did interview different pieces. Like Andy got like a whole panel that was just himself for a little while. I am insanely hyped for this.
Oh yeah.
It is
Absolutely.
obviously it's going to be 3-episode jumps to get us to finally end at Rogue One.
Yeah, as I understand, they're going to start 4 years after the events of season one, like right before Rogue One starts.
I sure. I all I know is that every 3 episodes is like a time jump. Every 3
Interesting.
episodes. So
Okay.
that at least that's what they said in the recap videos and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm not excited that it's going to be next year that we get it though. I really wanted it Christmas time this year. That's what I really wanted.
Yeah, no, what's gonna happen? They're only gonna do like a season once a year for any of these series. Like it's just a standard right now for what Disney does. So yeah.
Yep. Now we got an official trailer for Ahsoka.
Yes. Yes, super, super excited. This came out pretty much day one. I remember waking up and starting up my computer to go to start loading up my work stuff, and then all of a sudden, bam! As soon as I put a Star Wars Celebration, I just caught it at the right time when they just premiered it, and oh my god, I was so blown away by this. My main gripe though is the Loth Cat. So if
It looks like
you've
a
ever
gremlin.
if you ever gone to Galaxy's Edge, they actually had sold a bunch of loaf cats there, right? They were smaller. They had like a whole different design and stuff, and they actually look very much like the animated versions from Rebels, right? And when I look at this, and I'm like, what did they do to the Loth Cat? Like, why did they have to have a redesign to it? Why? It was perfect the way it was, but still excited to see the Loth Cat. And man, last I remember at the end of Rebels, Sabine has short hair, right?
Yes.
So it probably some time has passed since that scene, I would assume, or at least right before it.
Yes. So my guess is we're gonna get like a Mando style time jumps in Ahsoka. We're gonna get some flashbacks. They're gonna have some obviously after and some before. This is obviously the after because you know where she's at, right?
I the room looks familiar, but I couldn't quite place it.
So I believe she is at what's his face's like weird dormitory thing that he lived in.
Ezra? You talking about
Yes.
Ezra's place in
Yes.
Lothal, his family? Oh,
Yes.
interesting. Okay, yeah, that
That's
would
what
make
this looks
sense.
like.
Yeah, and that would explain all the different drawings and everything in there. Yeah, yeah, that's actually pretty interesting.
Obviously she still has her Mando helmet. Now, if you look at the second picture here, and I blew it up down here, there is rumor that there is a lightsaber back there.
Yes. And that would actually make sense, right? Because at the end of Rebels, before Ezra goes, and spoilers if you have not seen Rebels, I highly recommend it. First season, you can skip part of it, but it's just basically world building, basically leading to the end of season one. But from the end of season one on, Rebels is just a fantastic show. Highly, highly recommend you watch it before the series comes out. But anyway, spoilers. At the end of Rebels, Thrawn shows up and threatening to basically destroy the city of Lothal, the city on Lothal where they were at, and Ezra surrenders himself to Thrawn. And right before he decides to go, he gives Sabine his lightsaber to hang on to because he tells her, "I'll be back for it." And then he proceeds to go onto Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and basically from then on, they don't see Ezra from that point on. So to me, it would make sense that she kept that lightsaber. And I'm willing to bet that she kept up her training that she got from wielding the dark saber to use that lightsaber while Ezra is away.
Yes. So then we have Hera. We also had, I didn't throw these pictures in there because everybody's probably seen it, but Hera's chasing something with our favorite droid, or my favorite droid of all times, Chopper, who has a higher body count than pretty much anybody than except for those that murdered planets or Death Stars.
So there is and I kind of wish we had the photos on there. So in that particular sequence, there's a point where we see that that Ahsoka drops down, and there's basically what looks like a decommissioned site, very similar to what we saw in Jedi Fallen Order, where they're breaking down all the Venators, except we're seeing the deconstruction of Imperial Star Destroyers in the background. And what I believe is that that ship or that round thing that Hera was shooting at is an Imperial shield generator that they got from the top of one of those one of the bridges of the Star Destroyer.
Hmm. And it could be. I mean, which would make sense because if you watched, um, I don't know how much we're allowed to spoil like a Mando, but there's scenes in Mando that show similar type things.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're just gonna stop there because Mando's pretty new still.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, now the next is we get two new Siths with orange blades for whatever reason, which
Are they
means,
Sith though?
huh?
Are they Sith?
They're Sith or they're evil. How about that? We're just gonna say that. Like it's an
I don't
orange
know.
lightsaber. It's an orange lightsaber, and they're attacking the Resistance.
I don't know. Until they get the yellow eyes, I don't think they're Sith, man. It's like a mark.
I don't know, but both of these characters, who we don't know where they come from, essentially have orange lightsabers and do bad.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely get some scenes of them fighting Ahsoka for one, and two, attacking a what looks like to be a Republic ship, right? Because they're going through like a sequence basically that kind of very familiar. It kind of looks like the ending sequence of Rogue One where Vader goes in to try to get the plans and like mows down a bunch of rebel troopers in there, and we kind of see something very similar in that flash scene there of him just mowing down some rebels. So it's going to be really interesting to see this menace. Now, do you think that these guys are associated with Thrawn?
No, no. I think I'm
Interesting.
going to go out on the limb here and say no.
All right.
Now, the next picture that I had, and this one I'm very excited for, even though I think it's just a bullshit throwback, is we have all the senators. So we have Senator Malwood, Senator Rodriguez, Senator Mon Mothma, Senator Kazuto, and Grand Senator, and I don't remember his name, so I didn't put it there. We have Kazuto. This is Kaz's father. Before.
Yeah.
This
From
is
Hosnian
Kaz's
Prime.
father. Right here. This like clearly is depicting that time period from Resistance. And maybe this is just a nod to the Resistance show. But if they bring in and tie the Resistance show into Ahsoka, oh man, holy crap, that's going to be amazing.
I mean, it would be pretty awesome to see at least some references over to that, as we know that it was definitely one of Filoni's lesser seen series, the Star Wars Resistance show that they showed on Disney XD for a while. But it would be awesome to at least see some references on there. I mean, imagine seeing Major Von Reg in the background or something like that.
Oh my
Like
god,
that'd be
you have no idea.
Pretty awesome.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
if we get Major Von Reg, holy shit! And who else did they have at Celebration this week?
Oh,
Bryn from Tarth.
that's right. Yeah.
Who is not Bryn from Tarth in Star Wars?
No,
from Game
it's
of Thrones.
Captain Phasma. That's right.
Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
We have Captain Phasma got an interview. Now, here's Tanner just reaching into the abyss here. We can see Phasma come back. I'm so excited. Like, oh, I love Phasma. I thought Phasma got such a bad rap from the movies. Bringing her back, even if it's one episode cameo, would just make my day.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Although I think we probably won't see them until much later, just based on the timeline for this. But one of the biggest things on the trailer is just Ahsoka making the reference to what we know is going to be the big bad for this particular series is Thrawn, and we get that scene of him just walking towards the entrance of a cockpit there, and naming him as the heir to the Empire, which is huge for anybody.
Where is that
from the original extended universe, or the old extended universe before Disney took over. It was a series of books there, and part of that series, the first one was Heir to the Empire, that first introduced Thrawn to the Star Wars universe back then, before the Disney takeover and the recanonization of everything. Man, when I first heard that, I was like, yes, and then I was just hoping to hear about the Seventh Fleet and about Paleon and like all of that, and I'm just so excited, man, to see how they portray this. And the biggest part of it is Lars Mikkelsen taking the role of Grand Admiral Thrawn. He was the voice of Grand Admiral Thrawn during the Rebels time. It was fantastic to see him be Grand Admiral Thrawn. I think it is a great choice, and I just can't wait to see his interpretation of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Now, and I apologize because we wanted to do Mando tonight, and we'll see where we get, because this is huge. For me, this is huge.
Yeah.
Because Thrawn is literally my favorite Star Wars character ever, period. Like, hands down, that is, to me, Thrawn is like Star Wars, right? Everybody, you have all your other stuff, but to me, Thrawn is the best piece of Star Wars ever created. Like, Timothy Zahn, Timothy Zahn is a genius. Now, I don't know what to think of this because they say heir to the Empire, which is old Thrawn, and old Thrawn was very punitive, very empire-ish, very villainish. New Thrawn, spoiler alert, New Thrawn is conflicted, manipulative, but ultimately looking out for his people. I don't know which way they're going to go with it. I like New Thrawn better, personally.
Yes.
I like the whole new 3 sets that we got. I will be very highly conflicted with this. Now, I say this because I actually read the new Thrawn books before I watched Rebels. My kids were not interested in Rebels when it came out. I didn't watch it at the time. We didn't have access to TV the same way we do now, so it was not as easy to see. Yeah. I watched Rebels during the pandemic because I worked from home, and then some days I had no work, so some days we just sit around and watch TV or play Animal Crossings, or stream X-Wing. That was a thing that became a thing, Anyway, Thrawn, to me, because Thrawn is the ultimate character, walks that thin line and always have. But to me, the books have portrayed Thrawn in a completely different light than ever originally meant. And I'm very conflicted in which way they're going to go, and whether I'm going to enjoy it or not, or whether it's going to literally be an hour of Tanner's complaining every episode. And I say this, hold on, real quick. I say this because I've been a Stephen King fan since I've been like 10 years old, 11 years old, right? Stephen King was like my world growing up, and that was my introduction into literature that was not comic book related. And then that led to the Star Wars universe from there and all of that, right? Okay. I hate the majority of Stephen King movies and TV series. I'm going to have a really hard time if Thrawn becomes nothing but a leftover remnant pawn of Palpatine.
Okay. So apparently we're going to have a Thrawn talk now. So, okay, I absolutely agree with you, right? I would be very disappointed if they just reduce him to it. However, the main difference between, and I'm going to use your example of Stephen King and what they have here, is that we at least have some sort of continuity for this. So we know that for every time that they've included Thrawn in like the Rebel series and in the books and stuff, obviously written by Timothy Zahn directly, Timothy Zahn has always had at least been consulted in how Thrawn would work or how he would react in certain situations throughout the process for here. I have no doubt in my mind that for the Ahsoka series, this will also be the same thing. He already has a rapport with Jon Favreau and with Dave Filoni, and this is his baby. Thrawn is his character, and and them being big Star Wars fans, I'm absolutely positive that they will take the time to explore that particular part of the story and make sure that it comes to a satisfying conclusion. Now, there is a bit of a spoiler. We do know that in addition to the Ahsoka series, they did reveal that there will be a movie directed by Dave Filoni, which will culminate all these ties between the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the Rebels for this part of the Star Wars universe, for this timeline. And we know that Thrawn will be the big bad for that. So we'll know that essentially that the Ahsoka series is the lead up for that big movie, basically setting up everything or the chain of events that will culminate in that movie ending there for you. So hopefully as the series progresses for Ahsoka, we get to see a little bit more to see what exactly happened to Thrawn and Ezra after the end of Rebels, and why he's known now as the heir to the Empire. I mean, at this point now where we're at, we know that Battle of Jakku has happened. The vast majority of the Empire has left over to the unknown regions, and I guess Thrawn has come back from wherever the hell he went and is taking over the remains of what's left of the Empire. Now, in that scene that we have where he's basically walking to the command ship, it kind of does look like Mandalore to me. It looks like that area where Bo-Katan had her castle, and it looks gloomy and looks hilly and stuff like that. That's the only thing that makes sense for me. I mean, it could be a brand new planet that we're looking at. So, what if Thrawn is already on like the area of Mandalore and he sends in those squadrons? Right? We know that Thrawn is a very, very big proponent of having fleets with large squadrons to help him supplement that. Maybe we've already seen his hand already in the series already before with Mando.
All right. And I told you this was going to happen. I told you because here's where we go back to the books, and I guess I don't care any longer if it's taking you this long to read the books. We're just gonna I'm just gonna have this conversation now. In the books, Thrawn does not act like a dictator, like even how you see him in Rebels. Like, he does certain things per se that alludes you to think that he's evil, but in the long run, it's because they're necessary evils to conceal something or a bigger plan. He has ultimately here to essentially assess the threat of Palpatine. That's what he's here for. They make that very clear in the books. He is here to assess this threat.
Okay, so in the we're gonna dive deep in here. So the Alliances book, right?
Greg, where's Greg? Greg, if you're still here, you need to join me in the chat room. Fuck's sake, we need to school JJ here.
Okay, so in the Alliances book, if I'm not mistaken, that should be the last book of the first 3 books that came out, right? We get that whole scene where, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't read it, Thrawn is taken away from the events that are going on in Rebels before he has to go back for the ending, and he has to deal with the plans for the Death Star for some of the materials being stolen, and we get essentially where we get the Defender Vader from there. That's the first time Vader gets into the Defender and pilots it, and there's a whole thing there. Thrawn's loyalty comes into question into that book because the existence of the Chiss ascendancy becomes known to the Empire, and it reveals that he still has his loyalty to the Chiss, and he is directly questioned, are you loyal to the Empire? And he says, can I not be loyal to both? And Thrawn is not a person who minces around his words. He basically says what he means, right? Unless he's going to intentionally, like, it's very, very few times where he basically obscures his meaning or what he's saying. He's a very direct person for it. So if he's been pressured here directly and he's gone through all these steps to ascend and make the Empire better, to me it stands that he does have, while he has undying loyalty for his race, he does have loyalty to the Empire itself. And just in the moments of his weakness where he's cracked and lost that control that he has on him, on his own personal self, it's easy to see that his time with the Empire has corrupted him at least a little bit, and change his attitude a little bit.
So fine, maybe it's a change. I'm
not saying it's a complete change. I'm just saying it's a little bit.
In the last prequels, I guess I'm gonna have to go back and figure out how to put spoiler warnings in all this shit.
Okay.
In the prequels, he says this: my job is to protect the ascendancy and the Chiss people. Whatever it costs to achieve that goal, I will pay. Now, that lends you to, again, feel, right, that he's here to protect. And again, fuck you, I'm sorry. Like, if you haven't read these books by now, JJ, I don't care anymore. Like you're
I'm like almost done with the last book, so it's okay. I don't
okay.
care.
Sorry, like I hate spoiling things for people. I really don't like it, but I don't know what else to do. In the last book, the very last scenes of what they do will come into play in just a second. But he says these things, right? And if you go back and look at the original series where they find Thrawn, right? And he meets, they do the throwbacks where he meets Anakin before he's Vader.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert from 40 years ago. And, you know, he does all those things and he remembers Anakin when he comes back to the system.
Mhm.
He was scouting. And you go back to all the threats that he accomplished. He violated Chiss protocol. He violated all these protocols to save this race, this species, for no fucking reason other than he felt that was the right thing to do. That is not a villainous mantra. Ever. And so, again, his loyalty goes back to his people. The idea that they portray in the books is that we have Thrawn, we have all these people that are farther than the Outer Rim, that these people are outside of this whole other universe. So we have like two separate universes that to some extent exist, both of them with the Force in different ways. In the last set of series, they explain what Skywalkers are and how they work.
Yeah.
Essential to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why actually the Jedis and the Jedi Order are, in the Sith Order, are all geniuses. They're like this, even though all this other area is more technologically advanced, spiritually, or whatever you want to call it, the area where we have the inner rim and the outer rim and the mid rim, these people are spiritually more intelligent than where Thrawn comes from. Okay?
Because of the chaos. Yeah.
Sure. Whatever you want to call, whatever it is, and again, that's a whole like another hour-long conversation we could actually have. We could actually just get rid of our X-Wing podcast and just talk Star Wars lore, and I would be ecstatic by that.
Yeah.
If you all want to support that, subscribe to us on Patreon and tell us this is what we want you to do instead of X-Wing. But going back to Thrawn, so the very end of the books of Thrawn is essentially Thrawn being ejected from society. It's a fucking elaborate ruse, JJ. It's a ruse to stick him because they feel there is a larger threat. And there's an illusion that Palpatine might have actually somehow had a puppet or been stringing somebody in these far out universe. That Palpatine's actually so fucking powerful that somehow he's infiltrated this area as a scouting measure.
So, I mean, you're saying that Palpatine would have orchestrated the whole plot line for the Grist coming in, trying to take over the ascendancy in that part of the
I'm
universe.
not advocating that he has done that, but that is a probability that he could have, or that he was somehow involved. And that's what Thrawn figured out, is that this threat here that they're all seeing, that they all ignored, and now they want to see, is an even larger threat. Because if Palpatine wins in Universe 1, Palpatine's goal is to expand to Universe 2, which means we have a Universe 3 and a Universe 4 and blah, 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 blah. Yes. Okay. And the whole reason Thrawn is sent, the whole reason, and the other thing I want in X-Wing is Admiral Ar'alani.
Ar'alani. Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. I want that. And if I don't get that there and I get it in Armada, I will just stop playing X-Wing and only play Armada. You've heard it from me first. And give me Vantos. Your Vanto.
Eli Vanto.
Yeah. Give me Vanto. Anyway.
Actually, I would love to see him show up in the Ahsoka show. Like, that would be fantastic if he shows up.
I don't think he will, though, because he was sent back.
Yeah, he was sent over to Ar'alani. But
my belief is that he was sent before the Rebels stuff took place. And yes, I understand that Thrawn has to create this image. The Rebels image of Thrawn is not the image you get from the books. And after the last series, and I'm sorry, I'm going to harp on this, after the last series and the the culmination of how they tie all 9 books together. To me, that's where we get this whole conflicting view of what Thrawn is. Now, could Filoni and all these assholes just be trolling Tanner? And that it's going to be like they're going to have an Ahsoka show where they're like, here's the big bad. And then next thing you know, we're going to get a movie that comes out that Thrawn's like, hey guys, I just had to play the bad person. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And yes,
Exactly.
not just Bones. If they put Thrawn in Shatterpoint, like, yep, hands down. They already announced Hondo this weekend, so I'm already like moving towards buying Shatterpoint. So
yeah, me too.
let's go back to the thing. This is where I'm conflicted, and this is I told you this would be a long conversation because to me this is huge. Because if you violate what 9 books have spent to set up an evil Thrawn that goes back to the Heir of the Empire, where he's more of a 2-dimensional character, I have a problem with that.
So, I mean, all right. So here's my reasons for why it may happen. Of course, this is all just speculative, right? So, okay, number one, his main reason for joining the Empire, right, is to gain the technological advantages that this part of the galaxy has. We've already established that in the books that he's taken technology from other races to help improve the chess, namely the shield generator that he got from Anakin during the time of the Clone Wars, and some of the other improvements to like the hull and the static shield that
And the
they
bombs.
did, and the bombs and stuff, right? He goes very heavily into the TIE Defender project because he believes that the role of a starfighter to escort a capital ship is very, very huge. It's particularly in that part of the galaxy where they outnumber capital ships, and he felt that that was a weakness that needed to be justified. And I believe, when you take a look at what the when you compare it to the books and what we read about the Chiss ascendancy, that is the one thing that they didn't have. They really did not have like a dedicated fighter force to help support their capital ships. So Thrawn identifies that as a weakness. So far, from Thrawn's point of view, the empire, the established government that's on there, is working to his advantage so that way he can get as much technological advantage to support the Chiss for it. Everybody else that stands against it or tries to basically tear that down gets into the way of him obtaining that technology or developing technology to eventually help his own people there. Now, let's take it a step further. He has his perceived attempts on his life from the rebels, and he now sees the full potential that these rebels can do. I mean, Ezra being able to summon basically a fleet of purple to come in and take out an
Flying
entire fleet,
whales.
that is well outside of the realm of what Thrawn could have predicted. Not to mention his encounter with the Bendu, being able to predict his defeat and demise. Now Thrawn is encountering forces that he himself could not factor in and calculate for ahead of time. This is the one of the very few defeats he's had, between the books and now this. Now he realizes that this rebel threat is real. So now he has to formulate a plan, like he always does, to try to handle it, just like he did with all the other invaders during his time with the Chiss, coming in and making a threat to his empire. He can potentially perceive these rebels as a potential threat because he does not quite identify with their cause. Right, for them, from a rebel's point of view, they're fighting for freedom, whatever. From Thrawn's point of view, they're just trying to overthrow the order that's established. So,
But Thrawn
those are potential reasons.
Thrawn has worked towards overthrowing the order that has established, just in a different manner. He does the same thing though.
I get that, but we see the steps that it takes to get to that conclusion, right? He does his investigation, reaches out to locals and talk to them, stuff like that. He doesn't do the same during the time of Rebels. He just does it. Yes, he gains admiration and respect for his opponents, which we see with the Nighthawk, and of course with the Rebels crew with Hera and stuff like that, and he respects them as adversaries, but he never identifies with their cause.
in the books, he identifies with causes that are similar to that.
Yeah, but were they his opponents or were they victims of the opposing cause?
Rebels are victims of the opposing cause, for Christ's sake.
No.
Yes!
I'm talking about
No, where are you, a Nazi? What the hell? The Empire is an oppressive regime. What is wrong with you?
I understand that, but the fact is that he's collaborating with them to develop this. If you take that premise of him sympathizing with the correct cause, right? Why didn't he go to the rebels to help him out? Why didn't he develop the side defender for the rebels to help overthrow the Empire? Obviously, the rebels could have obviously used that help. He could have been working with all the Mount Kyles.
Hold on. You want to know why? You really want to know why? You want to know what my answer to that is?
What?
Because the evolution of Star Wars has surpassed Rebels and some of these other previous theories, that when we get the Thrawn books, we have a more actual, true, evolved essence of what happens. That there is not that many people that were supportive of the Empire. And if you understand Thrawn's backstory through all the goddamn fucking books we just got,
I understand that.
However, he would have empathized with the rebels if the fucking show had come out before or after the books. We would have a completely different story.
Okay, but from what is established from the last part of his story that we have currently right now, which is Rebels, I understand all the books and I agree with you on that point. I don't disagree on that point, but based on the actions that he took during the times of Rebels, it shows that he clearly supports the Empire.
But
his loyalty is to the Empire.
The books.
I understand
hands down.
I understand that. However, I'm just saying that his current trajectory, based on what we've seen so far, shows him supporting the Empire.
But would it not be easier for Filoni and all these other motherfuckers that get paid millions of dollars to do this shit? We should just write Star Wars because we're unpaid cocksuckers. Would it not be easier? Folks, you are hearing future Star Wars developers and story writers right here. Would it not be easier to correct the Rebel saga by basically changing Thrawn to say he's not the big bad of everything? That all of this has this larger underlying motive that culminates into him essentially setting up the Resistance, helping Rey, creating this whole future process with Leia. That's all part of it versus being some fucking Palpatine puppet wannabe. I mean, come on. It's
short
easier
answer
to correct that.
Short answer: Thrawn's a cool villain, man. Just saying.
Fuck you. All right, we're going to move on because I'm pissed at JJ, and we have a few more things to talk about, and then we're going to end the show for tonight. So the last thing that we know, other than when the next celebration will be, is that we have 3 new movies coming out. One directed by James Mangold. One directed by Filoni, and one directed by Sharim, and I'm not going to even try to say any of the last names because I'm not good at that shit. So we have 3 new movies that Kathleen essentially has told us are in the works. Now, we don't know where they're at in the works. We have no idea. We just know that these 3 are in the works. We know that one of them is going to be set in the past. So not just Bones, when we talk about the Old Republic, when we talk about these things, there is officially going to be a movie that sets even before those times. They're going to talk about essentially where the Force came from, which I'm not super excited about, but that's fine. We'll see. Because if we look at where the Force is, it just has always been there. And now we're going to get into like an evolution adaptation conversation, and why I believe in like objective morality, but I'm not religious. And there's like a whole philosophical conversation we could literally have. We could actually I studied a lot of philosophy. We could literally spend an hour having a philosophical conversation about the Force, and maybe we should do that. Maybe maybe we should do that. I don't screw Josh Whedon. Anyway, it's gonna have High Republic stuff, possibly look at where the Force was created, all that stuff. Then, like we said earlier, Filoni is essentially going to wrap up all of the Disney Plus series minus Andor, because Andor, we know where that wraps up. And they're going to essentially move all of these, and I don't believe you that Thrawn's the big bad. My belief is that Thrawn will be the good guy in the long run. But essentially, this is where they're going to have the send-off for all those series, which, again, if we look at how they've treated Marvel and allowed Marvel to have their different phases, to me, this is going to be kind of the end of the phase for them in 2025 or 2026. That's kind of going to be where that end of the phase is. And then the last film, which I'm most excited about, is the recreation of the Jedi Order. And guess who's going to be there?
Daisy Ridley.
Yes.
Excited.
Yes.
Super excited.
And as much as I hate Finn and X-Wing, I really hope Finn comes back. Like, I really hope we get Finn back. I hope we get a Poe back. I hope we get all sorts of characters that come back. And my daughter and I had a conversation about how expensive it would be to make. I have a white vehicle to make it a BB-8 car if that happens.
That would be awesome, man. Honestly, though, like just a note on the final film, I am excited to see Daisy Ridley come back as Rey in a new film that's set 15 years after the end of Episode 9. But honestly, I do wish that they did take the time to help establish that part of the timeline, probably by having like a Disney Plus series to help world build a little bit more. Because again, you know, the sequel trilogy just felt a bit rushed in terms of the timeline. I mean, we have two movies that essentially happen back to back from each other, and then there's a big time skip to, I believe, 5 years later after the events of Episode 8, and just not a lot of world building of what's going on around the galaxy around that time. It would be nice to have something to start filling in the gaps, and probably we'll start hearing about more projects as that comes along. But I just want, you know, we start seeing the just the whole production quality in terms of the script that's written for a lot of these Disney Plus shows. They're just a higher quality than what we've been getting from the movies. So I'm just hoping that they help redeem that part of that timeline with just better writing and probably a little bit more world building, so you can get a little more involved into those movies, and that way it's a great experience.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I kind of do hope we get some of that ahead of time, but we'll see. I don't know. I think it's a possibility, JJ. I do think it is. I just don't know if I would Ewoks turn to the dark side. What are you talking about? You're going crazy in the chat. I do think there will be some other things, and we don't know the timeline, so we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there's anything else being written and produced at that time. We don't know. So, but what we do know is they're going to skip a year, and we're not going to have a celebration. And now some of us have to figure out how to crowdfund to go to Japan
exactly
in 2 years. So if anybody would like to donate, like $5,000 to Tanner, I will happily go and report everything that happens.
I mean, AMG could also have Worlds at Celebration in 2025. So if you earn the Worlds invite, you get to go to Japan.
Yeah, so they're going to be like, 90% of you can pay for your own travel to go to Japan. Like, I would happily go to Europe and probably pay some money to do that. Not Japan. Japan is not, Japan's not cheap to go to, right?
No, it's not. No, it's like San Francisco, basically.
It's, like, if we're not talking like it's going to cost $2,000 or $3,000. It's like a $6,000 to $10,000 trip.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my daughter told me she might get into Star Wars if she could go with me to Japan. So,
heck yeah, bro.
And I said, honey, at $10,000, I'll happily go by myself. And I know that's a dick thing to say, but I mean,
oh man, that'd be awesome, man.
Anyway. Whew. All right. Well, that was our very elongated Tanner gets pissed at JJ for his wanting Thrawn to be a villain commentary. Thank you all for joining us tonight.